I'd like to welcome every one of you to the launch of SolidWorks 2022. I'm going to start by presenting myself. My name is Habrich. I am the founder and president and CEO of SolidXperts. You will have noticed in the last year emails sent to you. They used to be my name at SolidXperts. You've now noticed that they say the name of the person at SolidXperience. What is this SolidXperience all about? Let me explain to you what SolidXperience is all about. This year, in February, in fact, the SolidXperts company will have been in business for 24 years. We will be entering our 25th year. And as such, we'll be celebrating an anniversary next year, but there's a second anniversary we'll also be celebrating. SolidXperts was founded while I already had a company that started much earlier than that. That company was called Mechanica Solutions. It was actually started in 1982. Yes, that's why I have no hair and what little I have is gray. I started that company back in 1982, and next year we're celebrating 40 years of being in business. Now, what that company sells, and has been selling for all of that time, are the Big Brother products. The CATIA, the Innovia, the Simulia, all of those type of products. I don't know why they all end with IA, but that's just Dassault. In this particular case, those products are now more referred to, or for you to understand, are part of the platform, which is the 3D Experience platform. And that is something you've been hearing more and more of. In fact, SolidWorks World changed to be called the 3D Experience World, because Dassault is introducing the platform and would like all of their customers to see what that can add to their existing SolidWorks tool sets that they're using today. So it seemed logical for me to say, look, I've got a company that sells SolidWorks products. I got a company that sells the other Dassault products, one of them being SolidWorks, the other one being the 3D Experience products. And since there's some overlap and more overlap going to happen in the future, why not change the name of the company to SolidXperience? So in fact, today there's still two legal different companies. However, they are part of the SolidXperience family. And SolidXperience is what we go with our emails. You will see that in more and more of the things that we put out. So that is why we are calling the company the SolidXperience. So we hope to give you a SolidXperience when you deal with us, whether it is for the 3D Experience products or whether it is for SolidWorks now and into the future. Talking about now, SolidWorks 2022 is the latest version that we are launching for you today. What is the process to get there? We are actually part of the beta program for SolidWorks. They let us work with the software. We work with them, give them recommendations, and this happens in the VAR community. And in the end, we settle on this is the version that will be coming out for 2022. Now, we receive a package from them about a month and a half ago or so, and we go through all of this. For 2022, the actual book that we receive of all the enhancements represents 166 pages. Now, as you can very well imagine, it's going to be impossible for us to go through 166 pages of information in 3 information sessions of 45 minutes. It's just not going to be possible. So what we've decided to do going forward is every month we will be offering to all of our customers on subscription a 1/2-day information session. Initially it'll be on the new changes, the new enhancements for 2022, why you should move to 2022. And then we will do product-specific things, whether it be simulation or whether it be on Composer or Visualize or PDM. And the 3D Experience and how that fits in, and understanding how you can gain more traction with 3D Experience on top of your SolidWorks. So if you look at the bigger picture, we're here to serve you. Now, along that same vein, you'll see my name up now, my email address, and my phone number. I want your feedback. How can we improve our business? You're our customer. We're there to serve you. What can we do better than we are doing today? Let us know. Feel free to reach me. Okay? As I say to my own employees, I don't bite. I'm here to make everything better. So All of that to say, I'd like to welcome you to this session today, and we'll be starting shortly. I want to thank you for the business that you've given us over the years to bring us to 25 years and 40 years respectively. So in this particular case, I wish you a great day. Enjoy the sessions, okay? And give us feedback. Don't hesitate. Thank you.
SolidWorks 2022, What's New Part 1. Let's kick it off with our first topic here in general introduction. My name is Greg Bedlick, and I'm one of the applications engineers here at SolidXperts. And today we have a bunch of great topics and enhancements to cover for SolidWorks 2022. And we're going to kick it off with our very first topic, which is going to be user experience. Now, there is a bunch of good enhancements for user experience, but most of it is focusing on the ease of use, frequently used functions or shortcuts, and providing the user with more useful feedback. With recent improvements, SolidWorks 2022 helps you be more productive with thoughtful user experience enhancements. As we had seen before, the Nemo submersible isn't complete without all 4 thrusters mated in place. In SolidWorks 2022, the command search is now integrated into the S key shortcut menu rather than the top right-hand menu. Additionally, if you click the eyeball, it shows the exact feature location. Now, in this example, the position and orientation of the thrusters has been precisely calculated, so mating to a coordinate system would actually be a really good strategy. In SolidWorks 2022, coordinate systems can also now be defined using specific numeric values, which makes the placement of the second thruster on the bottom right much easier. At this time, origin visibility is currently turned off, and that's to reduce overall clutter on the screen. But with SolidWorks 2022, the new Q key keyboard shortcut allows you to quickly turn off the assembly or component reference geometry, such as planes, coordinate systems, and origins. It's also worth mentioning that coordinate systems have visually and functionally changed as well. Their axes, planes, and even the point itself can now be used to create sketches, section views, and more. In this case, the thrusters need to be mirrored, and commonly used tools like Mirror are conveniently added to the shortcut bar with one click. The new Q key shortcut also works while creating features. Many other elements of the user interface has been overhauled to give you a more informative and visually appealing experience. These new bubbles appear throughout the system options and give you more insight into the existing settings. You can see that right there. Now, you might have seen this before, but the dismissed messages have always been easy to show again, but were sometimes truncated or shortened. And now when hovering over an item, it reveals the whole message, making it much easier to determine if you'd like to show it again. And again, notification pop-ups like this reminder to save have also been unified in style and appearance. When you need to collect a project and all of the reference components, the best tool for the job is Pack and Go. And in 2022, you can now see a progress bar giving you an indication as to how long the process will take, which is especially useful for those larger assemblies. And there we have it. As SolidWorks has emphasized, the most user-friendly 3D CAD software in the world is now even easier to use with these valuable additions to the user experience. And as mentioned in the video, the notification and message bar styles have been unified. So you can see the style of them now looks similar. They don't look so out of place. There's also some new messages. So the ones that we're pretty familiar with are things like save reminder. The document hasn't been saved for 20 minutes. Or add in loading performance. Maybe you have CAM or another program that is going to take additional time to load. We're pretty familiar with those, but there are new ones, or at least new to me, like solids and surface bodies. The data migration tab might help you edit this model. Or even the graphics body, the mesh modeling tab might help you edit this model. That one I know for sure. Graphics body are actually far more useful than you think, and the mesh modeling tab actually is a good enhancement. I would definitely recommend trying that. Now we do have a couple other topics to cover. Now, hybrid modeling is going to be our second topic here, and when we look at hybrid modeling, it's now focusing on using more than just native SolidWorks data. It's now incorporating other file formats, and rather than just kind of staring at the obscure BREP data or those mesh files that you have, you can use it as a reference, and you can now actually start modifying and using it within SolidWorks. So let's get into our next slide and show a quick video. Let's talk hybrid modeling. Designers require the ability to create manufacturable products using an ever-increasing variety of file formats. Now, SolidWorks 2022 makes this easier than ever with new enhancements for mesh BREP formats and tools that help you view and edit critical product information. Now let's take a look on the top here. This ball valve on top is equipped with a lockout tag feature, which is perfect for this control panel, but the handle is too plain to be incorporated into a luxury product like the Nemo, right? I mean, this is some fancy stuff. The particular supplier provided their files for the valve in mesh BRAP format. In SolidWorks 2022, working with these files is just like working with native geometry, thanks to the new hybrid modeling capabilities. Creating features like chamfers, extrudes, reference planes, and more no longer require intermediate bodies or Boolean operations. It is now direct. Now, in this case, the handle needs a slot for a lock, and new in SolidWorks 2022, the whole wizard slot length can be defined by arctangents or centers. And when positioning the slot, the tab key toggles between vertical and horizontal orientation, so this is nice and quick, it's much easier. Manufacturing the handle will also require a draft, and using bidirectional parting line draft would be the most appealing, and in SolidWorks 2022, you can now create draft in both directions when using a parting line, rather than having to create two separate draft features. Now, if we look at this mesh file, it contains 3 bodies, but the manufacturer needs access to the individual components. Now, in SolidWorks 2022, Pack and Go recognizes the references created when using the save bodies and split part commands. This way, you can choose which files you want without having to find them manually in Windows Explorer, which we know can be quite tedious. Now, let's talk about section views. Section views are a great way to inspect components, but sometimes a suitable plane doesn't exist. Again, in 2022, you can now specify a section view from any cylindrical face, conical face, or axis. Now, let's look at the part here. These are 22mm cut threads and are useful for rapid prototyping, but it's too much detail for higher volume manufacturing and would make the file large and complex. However, the new stud wizard automatically recognizes the diameter of the boss, but still provides a list of different thread sizes and pitches to use. You can even create an undercut with full control over the dimensions and add cosmetic threads, and they can eventually be called out in 3D annotations or 2D drawings. Again, good enhancements. In SolidWorks 2022, configuration-specific properties have been separated into 2 tabs, configuration properties and property summaries. In the first tab, property information is added just like you expect, but now you can choose which configuration they're applied to using the drop-down menu. And the properties summary tab provides a useful way to compare configurations based on a custom property. Now, let's be honest, designers sometimes have no choice of the files they're going to receive from a supplier, but still need to support the design process through several different manufacturing methods. And again, that's why we like SolidWorks. SolidWorks 2022 provides the tools you need to get the job done fast and efficiently, while providing improved visibility to critical product information. Now that we've covered hybrid modeling, let's move on to our next topic, which is going to be all about structure systems. If you have ever used structure systems before, you know that it is the bigger brother of weldments, which allows for creation of massive structures within a single feature. The enhancements this year include quick creation of secondary members, gussets and end caps within the structure systems, new mirror functions, and new sheet metal enhancements. And again, on the next slide, we're going to have a couple videos to show you those exact enhancements. SolidWorks makes it easy to create frames and structures with structure systems. Originally introduced in 2019, there is now a number of enhancements to secondary members, the introduction of connection elements, and more. Secondary members are defined using existing structural bodies, and this vertical post will be carrying a heavy compressive load and bending load, so it will need extra supports. Creating multiple secondary members is fast in SolidWorks 2022, now that you can select a point in multiple bodies. All corner treatments are just as intuitive to define as they have been in the past, giving you full control over the end result. Also new in SolidWorks this year is the ability to define or insert connection elements. These are great for members that are designed to be bolted rather than welded. In this case, these legs right here require a base plate so that the cradle can be attached to the floor. Just select the member and the plate is automatically centered at the end. If the connection element doesn't meet your design needs, it can be adjusted on the fly. These forklift lifting channels may need to be replaced if damaged, so a connection element is perfect for the situation. Defining the position of the connection element is easy. Simply just select the faces of the members, then use the convenient member planes, which reveal themselves automatically, to center the element. The connection element is smart and can cut predefined holes in the members you select. Gussets and end caps are also now supported for structural members in SolidWorks 2022 and are just as easy to define as before. Mirroring features and components is a very commonly used function, and now in SOLIDWORKS 2022, you can mirror across two planes or faces. No longer will operations like this require two separate mirror features. So no mirroring from front to back and left to right, you can now do that with two planes. In SOLIDWORKS 2021, they introduced the ability to create an edge flange on the circular edge of a non-planar base. But in 2022, this has been improved to allow you to edit a flange profile directly inside the property manager so that you can specify the exact flange length you want. And as we know, Structure Systems is a very powerful but flexible tool. And with these new enhancements to secondary members, connection elements, mirroring, and sheet metal, creating frames and structures is easier than ever. All right, that concludes Structure Systems. So we have covered user experience enhancements. We've also talked about hybrid modeling and the enhancements to Structure Systems. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleague Renee Forcier, who is going to teach us all about cloud modeling.
Thank you, Greg. In this next couple of slides and video, we're going to be talking about cloud modeling. Innovation is the essence of product design and could be your company's biggest competitive advantage. It requires creativity, agility, and the ability to churn through concepts as quickly as possible. Parametric surface modeling delivers on creativity and agility, but the process is time-consuming, requires a rare level of expertise, and requires thorough planning. Subdivisional modeling, on the other hand, it's spontaneous, requires minutes of training, and changes can be visualized in real time. Available on any device with an internet connection and compatibility with your existing SolidWorks workflows and tools, this tool is every product designer's needs in one toolbox. Dan, our industrial designer, and Don, our mechanical engineer, are spearheading the concept design of the Nemo submersible. Let's jump in with Dan, in 3D sculptor, as he takes on the initial body concept. Every concept design has a unique starting point. In this case, progress has already been made on the underlying frame assembly. These files were designed in SOLIDWORKS, and they're readily available for Dan to reference directly in his browser. Other concepts might start with a hand sketch. In X-Shape, neither is really necessary. Dan can begin transferring his vision for the Nemo body design directly from his head into 3D geometry. Subdivisional modeling gets its name from the loops of edges and vertices that surround the base shape. The more there are, the more control, but much like a spline in SOLIDWORKS, it's better to start with less than more. The main user input is an on-screen manipulator called the robot. The shape is always edited in respect to the position of the robot, so Dan can move it to the left edge to keep this side stationary. Pushing and pulling the geometry is the main interaction in sub-D modeling. The robot can be used to translate, rotate, and scale the shape that you have on your screen. The other half of the battle is selecting geometry. Fortunately, in X-Shape, there are plenty of shortcuts. For example, Dan can shift-select two faces to select those of the entire loop of faces in between. By default, all of the faces on our shape have a C2 level of curvature continuity. Ideal for any industry of product design, however, select edges can be creased at any time to enhance the style. In this case, by dragging the slider, Dan can adjust the smoothness factor applied at these creases. Because X-Shape runs in a browser, Dan is able to design on a tablet and can swipe his pen or finger across the screen at any time to influence the top row of vertices. Now, we can switch between orthogonal views to make it easy to size, shape, and position this first sub-D bottle right where we want it to be in relation to our frame. The robot can then be repositioned onto an edge. This way Dan can precisely control the direction of his translation. Precision can be applied to the length of his translation too. An on-screen ruler appears to snap to an exact dimension. Once one side is done, Dan's ready to move onto the hood. To add more material, he can slap a virtual trunk of clay using the extrude command to the top of this body. Once he's extruded that chunk of clay on top, he can pull the faces over the center plane. That plane can be used to apply symmetry, and as long as the symmetry option is active, all modifications will be replicated to the other side of the part. To ensure the hood of the Nemo is perfectly flat, Dan can align the entities to a line, moving its endpoints with translate and scale the entities while snapping them to a perfectly horizontal orientation. Now that the general shape has been roughed out, Dan can focus on a few finishing touches before sending this out for review. Here he'll add 2 additional horizontal loops to the midsection to make way for a hole that will travel through it. Because the loops are such a common command, they're easily accessible from the in-context toolbar as a user interface feature every SOLIDWORKS user can appreciate. The vertical loop will provide a boundary for the hole in the back, as well as scope on the bottom to create the hole. The extrude tool can be accessed from the context toolbar while 2 opposing faces are selected. In minutes, Dan has enough detail to share his concept with the rest of the design team. The sub-D modeling capabilities of X-Shape provide the fastest way to conceptualize in 3D, and considering the amount of information communicated by a single 3D model, it's arguably faster than sketching on paper. But what about SOLIDWORKS? What happens when the reference frame assembly is modified? Let's check in with Don as he continues to make progress on the desktop connected to the 3D Experience platform. All of Nemo's design team's data on the cloud is accessible directly in the SOLIDWORKS task pane. To assure Don's changes aren't overridden by a collaborator, he can reserve files that he plans to modify, as we'll see in a moment. Searching through their entire database takes seconds before he finds the components he's looking for, then all it takes to add them to his assembly is a simple drag and drop. After adding the propulsion system and hatch assemblies, he's ready to save his changes. Just like that, all of his modifications are securely stored to the cloud, accessible to anyone with proper permissions anywhere in the world. Curious about Dan's progress, he can perform another search for the body design. Even though it was designed in X-Shape, Don can drag it right into his SOLIDWORKS assembly and do a quick visual check on how his recent additions might influence Dan's design. By activating Preview in 3D Play, Don can sketch some annotations to indicate the adjustments needed to account for newly added components. Then he can post them directly to their private design team community for Dan to see. Even though Dan still has some work to do, it's not too soon for Don to add some SOLIDWORKS features to the body. X-shaped geometry comes in as flawless watertight solid, ready for extrudes, cells, shells, ribs, and any other features necessary to prepare this product for manufacturing. The 3D Experience platform unlocks many new capabilities in applications like X-Shape, and they're all capable of collaborating with SOLIDWORKS. The best part is they now enable hybrid workflows, allowing you to stay in sync while working concurrently. Designing an X-Shape can go far beyond the concept stage. Let's drop back in with Dan as he revises and finishes the body shape to the highest level of precision. As Dan's working in X-Shape, he receives a notification for Don's post. By clicking it, he'll be able to go directly to their community where he can review the proposed changes and let Don know he's working on it, as well as do a quick refresh of the frame assembly. Once the refresh is complete, the frame is up to date and Don's last design changes. Of course, the exact same assembly structure that exists in SOLIDWORKS is visible in X-Shape, so Dan can start strategizing about his changes. To keep the design tree organized, Dan creates an ordered geometrical set to house his reference sketches. By converting the outer diameter of the hatch opening, he will have a clear view of the edge he'll need to blend the opening of the hood to. Rather than adding a loop of vertices surrounding the entire perimeter of the body, Dan can localize groups of entities with a subdivide command. Now that he can select a new loop of edges on the hood and the corresponding edges of the hatch, magically, the Align to Curve command perfectly aligns Dan's X-shaped geometry to Don's SOLIDWORKS assembly. Just like style splines in SOLIDWORKS help to parametrically control splines, the cage view in X-shape reveals the underlying constraints driving the curved surfaces, making it apparent when edges are out of alignment. After selecting the vertices in sequence, Dan can easily align them to each other. The side view reveals that the front faces of the hood are also out of alignment. Once selected, they can be coincident to each other from the context toolbar, just like mates in SOLIDWORKS. To hone the angle of the front faces, Dan can select the entities and reposition the robot to the pivot point. If the face that required a specific draft angle, Dan could snap the on-screen protractor to dial it in perfectly. To leave the coincident faces undisturbed, Dan can once again reposition the robot accordingly. Dragging the webbing of the robot will ensure that heat translations maintain the coplanar alignment of the faces. After a few more adjustments to the hood, Dan is ready to tackle the pathways on the side of the design for the thrusters. He'll prepare to set for each one. Note just for organization, but also to serve their dependency on the order they exist within the design tree. Using the cylinder shape and automatically creasing each end will make it easy for Dan to locate the first pathway in relation to the vertical thruster. In a similar fashion, Dan duplicates the process of modeling the negative space required for the horizontal thruster. There are now 3 separate solid bodies that can be combined to form the final shape. Similar in SolidWorks, the combine feature has multiple options for Boolean operations. The subtraction looks good, but Dan also notices the intersection between the vertical and horizontal pathways is a bit too high. To remedy this, Dan will need to lower the vertical pathway. Because each body was placed in a separate set, Dan's still able to see the horizontal pathway even though it exists below the vertical pathway in the design tree. This allows Dan to predictably position the vertical pathway in relation to the horizontal pathway with no trial and error. This looks perfect. Taking one final look at the overall shape, Dan's job appears to be complete. We will now be jumping back to SolidWorks. The model has been updated, and Don has made further progress on the frame, or on the parametric features. He's even split the body into multiple components using the master modeling technique. It won't be long before this project is wrapped up. X-Shape provides an unlimited amount of design freedom and flexibility, but you can use it to design much more than a concept. When necessary, it's capable of precision fit for any downstream operation. The sub-D modeling environment is one that every product designer can benefit from. There's no installation required, almost no training necessary, there's no faster way to model complex geometry, and there's certainly no reason to not expand your design compatibilities with this great new tool. Now that we've talked about cloud modeling and some of the ways that we can use it to design with our 3D experience tools, we're going to be jumping back to base SolidWorks for 2022 What's New content, and I'll be handing off the presentation to John.
Good day. I'm John Nolan, Senior Applications Engineer with SolidXperts, and our next topic for What's New SolidWorks 2022 is going to be assembly performance. One of the nicer enhancements for SolidWorks 2022 is enhancements to Large Design Review Mode. Large Design Review Mode is a way of dealing with extremely large assemblies, such as our submersible here, in a kind of more of an e-drawings type graphics format with very little of the solid body information loaded into RAM. Here in SolidWorks 2022, our assemblies can be as large as we want within our system capabilities. In the case of the Nemo submersible, our environment here in large design review mode with over 6,000 pieces opens in a mere 13 seconds. Quite impressive for a vehicle of this size. One of the more appropriate options available now in 2022 is we can open the associated drawing directly into detailing mode. Even with multiple sheets and multiple configurations, the complete assembly drawing opens in a mere 23 seconds. Detailing mode itself has really, over the past few years, completely redefined what a drawing view actually is. In this case, we have several views already placed on the drawing sheet, and for any of those views, even without any solid body information present, we can continue to add new dimensions, create reference dimensions to clarify things, referencing vertices, endpoints, angles, anything we really want on the existing drawing views. Also from improvements here, on the feature tree we can choose to open any of the sub-assemblies in any mode that we like, be it large designer view, lightweight, or fully resolved. And later on, should we change our mind, we can absolutely activate fully resolved mode at any point. SOLIDWORKS 2022 makes it easier to work in as efficient a mode as possible, no matter how you start out working in your assembly session. Similarly, in SOLIDWORKS 2022, assembly features are also improved. Mates, patterns, and configurations are all easier to use than ever before, with more functionality and less clicking by you, the user. Here, with our Instant 3D turned on, it is much easier to manipulate one of the components, even though it's obscured by the other pieces in the assembly. Once we start clicking and dragging it, we can see the motion triad, and we can reorient it in any angle or orientation we choose, easily from the left and right mouse buttons. Also, upon mating it, the Smart Mate toolbar or Quick Mate toolbar has more complete options so that we can do everything right at the mouse cursor, even adding lock concentric on these particular items. With a controlled drag, taking another copy of that stud, we can now move it into position and again orient it however we need and fully lock it down as needed. Also, when it comes to pattern-driven component patterns, they're even more intelligent than they ever have been before. Here, it automatically interprets the appropriate seat position and finds the remaining instances and where they should go. Even if we should take and relocate this particular component to one of the other instances of the feature pattern, the component pattern thereof automatically adjusts and corrects itself for the seat position. Similarly, on our countersunk fastener, it works the same way. Configurations have always been a powerful feature of SOLIDWORKS, and in this assembly or subassembly case, we have configurations not only of the subassembly itself, but also several of the key components. And the myriad of choices that become involved could get quite time-consuming to maintain and categorize. Now for SOLIDWORKS 2022, we kind of have the best of both worlds, combining design tables and configuration capabilities into a new configuration table element. This configuration table automatically picks up on the existing configurations and, with a few simple clicks, allows us to create a complete new variation of that config without having to activate or do anything else. Even if we so choose to make manual changes to a particular config, whichever one happens to be active at the moment, those changes in turn automatically can populate themselves into the table. Also, for configuration tables, we can filter by specific items, and in this case, make sure that each configuration has its appropriate part number. Similarly, when looking at bill of materials, there's often many cases where we might have specific items, particularly like these pieces formed at assembly, that should not show up in the BOM. Previously, you could always go in and component by component tell it not to be in the BOM table. But now in SOLIDWORKS 2022, we do have a new configuration option at the component level to determine that it should never be applied to an upper level BOM. SOLIDWORKS 2022 makes it much easier than ever before to deal with large assemblies and variations of large assemblies. in your software, giving you more time to design and less time to worry about how the aspects of the software work. One note about the Quick Mate system, there is a system option that needs to be activated to turn on some of those additional options for locking and setting your particular mates. As alluded to previously, drawings also get significant enhancement in SOLIDWORKS 2022. Detailing mode continues to evolve, and new types of dimensions and bill of material options have been added this particular release. For the Nemo submersible, companies like U-Boat Works need to make their drawings as full detail with the least amount of effort as possible. Here in detailing mode, the full assembly is well documented, even with shaded views and more. Here we can bring in additional notes, even in this detailing mode, and choose to edit those notes, adding extra intelligence to our drawing. Here, adding a few missing balloons and realigning them is easily done, with none of the solid body information being required. Even addition of tables and stuff from existing views works just as you would expect, even if you had the drawing fully resolved. Older drawings can now open directly into detailing mode in SOLIDWORKS 2022. This replaces the prior detached mode of earlier releases and gives you all the functionality that detailing mode can bring. The in-context toolbar for drawings is also improved, in this case allowing us to alter our diameter dimension style directly on the fly, not needing to refer to the property manager. Here on a large turn part, symmetric linear diameter dimension gives us a clearer overall picture with less leader lines and so forth, making for a much tighter drawing view. Geometric tolerancing has been completely reworked for SOLIDWORKS 2022. In this case, we get an in-context property manager right at our mouse cursor, allowing us to build up the frames in full detail, section by section, from symbol to tolerance to material conditions and datums, all interactively on the fly right at your mouse cursor. This will make it so much more efficient to add good geometric tolerancing into your drawings with less time. Here in this frame assembly, we have actually a series of weldments kind of fastened together. Each one has its own very detailed cut list. However, in this particular case, it would be nice to have all these kind of combined in a subassembly level type bill of materials. Well, now with SOLIDWORKS 2022, we can do exactly that with the combined roll-up of those details. Predefined views have always been useful in drawing templates, and now for SOLIDWORKS 2022, sheet metal flat patterns are available as a predefined view type that you can put in your drawing templates. SOLIDWORKS 2022 makes it easier than ever before to fully document even the largest assemblies in all the detail required to make good manufacturing work done. As I've noted before, detailing mode really does completely redefine what an actual drawing view is, and even for less involved assemblies, I absolutely advise you to take advantage of it. The speed improvement is fantastic for what it can do. An additional note that detailed cut list is now available in SOLIDWORKS 2022 for each of the BOM types, whether it's top level, indented, or parts only. SOLIDWORKS has long been one of the most capable CAD systems in terms of file import and export, and that tradition continues with SOLIDWORKS 2022. In SOLIDWORKS 2022, IFC import and export are both improved, DWG and DXF export from files are improved, and overall input performance is much better than previous releases. In SOLIDWORKS 2022, you may collaborate with a variety of engineers, project consultants, and others not using your CAD system. In SOLIDWORKS 2022, IFC file format is created with more capabilities, allowing us to set specifics to match our partners' specifications. Similarly, on the import side, now for SOLIDWORKS 2022, we have more options for IFC import. We can now filter by the various object types that might be in the file, particularly for a SOLIDWORKS designer, perhaps choosing just the floors and walls of a building to bring in and design our equipment around. All of this means that the resulting import and opening in SOLIDWORKS is much faster than it had been in previous releases. Now, with 2022, exporting DXF and DWGs directly from part files is improved, giving us some of the capabilities that were exclusive to drawings before in picking up layers, colors, object types, and more, and properly assigning those to the outgoing DXF or DWG file. Oftentimes in manufacturing, we'll pick up those DXF files and use that layer and color information to properly suit their needs. SOLIDWORKS 2022 makes it easier to collaborate with others throughout your workspace, be they partners, your own manufacturing team, or anyone else involved.
We just heard from myself, we heard from Renee, and we also heard from John there on some new enhancements for 2022, right? At this time, we want to have a little bit of a Q&A, a little bit of chat, right? We want anybody who's attending right now, who's seen some things there, are there any questions? Any curiosities on what you've seen so far? Any enhancements you like or perhaps do not like? I would imagine there's probably no enhancements here that anybody doesn't like, right? But, you know, go ahead and ask some questions. There's a couple things that already I've seen that are kind of big, like in the structure systems. We were working on you know, adding different channel members and different structural features and things like that. And one of the things I saw there was the ability to mirror across a plane and a plane, right? So if you ever used, you know, SolidWorks and you've mirrored items, if you were to use a feature and push it on one side, push it to the other side there. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and modify my audio there for a second. Apologies. If you were ever to mirror one entity from one side to another, you know, if you have something on the front and then you mirror it to the back, that's one operation. And then if you want to mirror what's on the left to the right, that's another operation. So now you're two features deep. And in the structure systems, we saw that you could mirror a single entity essentially up and around into 4 places with basically 2 planes. So we've seen that in structure systems, but I kind of want to take a second at some point and sit down to 2022 and see if I can do that with standard features and standard parts. I don't see a reason why we couldn't. There's also some other good enhancements too that we've seen. Everything from mesh B-wrap modelings. Let me go ahead and just check the chat there and see if anybody's got any questions there. Check the chat. No questions in the chat. That's all right. If you guys got any questions, let me know. But like I said, there's some good functionality there. For me personally, if you were to think about the import of mesh bodies and B-rep data, right? If we were to think about that, I think everyone has had, you always want to be in a positive light here, but I think everyone has made the mistake of trying to open up a file in SolidWorks and realizing, oh no, you clicked an STL file or maybe a mesh file or an OBJ file, you know, some 40, 30 megabyte mesh file, which is not a solid body, it's not a surface, right? And you go, oh shoot, I don't want to open that, because you're using a mechanical program to open up a mesh file. And that is that's a pretty serious task to be able to import and read a mesh file. But the enhancements over the last couple of years is that it's getting better with those mesh files. And not only are you just opening them, you're now able to use them, right? And I don't think a lot of users are actually educated in that. I don't think they actually know that. When you open up a mesh file, and you just see it on the screen, you know, maybe it's covered in 1,000 triangles, maybe it's a little dark, maybe it's a little shaded, it's a little difficult to see at times. But if you work through some of the filters, You look at how the mesh body can be converted to, or the graphics body can be converted to a mesh body. You can play around with the decimation functions, surface wizards. You can use Boolean operations on mesh bodies. I mean, there's actually a lot of good functionality in there that I think a lot of users should become familiar with. And the same thing goes for actually, I think we'll touch base a little bit later, but behind me or behind my my laptop here, I have some scanners that we've been working with. And with scan data, once you have the scan data, you have very complex mesh files. What do you do with that? You have to bring it in SolidWorks and you have to reconstruct it and use those existing tools. So I am very excited for 2022 because I think one of the challenges of SolidWorks was opening and interpreting and using mesh files in a way that actually mattered to your design process rather than just using them as a viewer. And I'm very excited that we're going to get that new functionality and we can do exactly that. So I'm very excited for that. Let me see if there's any other questions there. Let me see if I can get our little browser going. Can you turn a mesh body to a solid body? By Michael. So that's an excellent question. Well, you can see me kind of processing and thinking those questions is yes, you can turn it into a solid body. One of the newest features inside of SolidWorks is that when you import a mesh file, when you import a STL, OBJ, PLY file, whatever it may be, it'll be imported as a graphics body. And a graphics body is quite easy to look at inside of SolidWorks. It opens actually quite quickly as a graphics body. And in the feature tree, if you were to right click on the imported body, there's an option to either decimate, create a surface, or convert to mesh body. And when you convert it to a mesh body, the mesh body can then be used as a solid body. So we've done things like on our TikTok channel there, we have a pumpkin. We brought in a 3D scanned pumpkin and we made a mold out of it. So we took a mesh body, brought it in, convert it to a mesh body, which is technically a solid inside of SolidWorks, and then we use that as a decimation tool. We use that to decimate, and we use the Boolean function to subtract one from the other. So that worked actually quite well. So yes, you can absolutely do that. It won't be necessarily like the solid body you see in SolidWorks where you've got like one unified face and you can push and pull it, but you can use it as a solid body for Boolean operations, which is quite good. Yep, there's a lot of good functionality there. That's an excellent question, which is something we're definitely going to need with scan data and a lot of files we're working with. I mean, even in the example of the handles from the Nemo, right? There's a lot of good functionality there too. Lisa, if you got any other questions, keep them coming. Yep, that's a good question. Yeah, scan data is good. The other things too, and we're trying to get a little bit better understanding this and using to the best of our abilities, is that again with mesh files, there are surface wizards. So depending on how complex of an item that you bring in, it can indeed become a surface, and surfaces are incredibly powerful inside of SolidWorks. So even things like if you just scan the human nose, we know creating the human nose inside of SolidWorks is a task because it's a very organic shape and it is a mechanical program, meaning that you would have to know the curvature, the distance, the nose of the bridge. You'd have to know all that data. But if you were to scan a nose and bring it into SolidWorks, you can use surface reconstruction to turn all of this into a series of small interlocking solids, which can then be used for mold functions. They can be used to offset. You can stitch them together. A lot of functionality. I feel like a lot of people don't see SolidWorks as a tool that can do that yet, and they've been really working on that functionality, and there's a lot of good stuff there. Yeah, if anybody else in the attendance here has a couple questions, let me know. There's a lot of good functionality there. We saw some things in 3D Experience, their online cloud platform, some of the shared design methods. We saw hybrid modeling, user experience. So they're doing a couple of new enhancements showing you how long things will take to process. So things like pack and go on larger assemblies. We've got new status messages and icons letting you know what's going on. It's a little more unified too. You don't have the spread of different error messages looking different ways. They're all kind of unified in that one space and they look similar, which I think gives a little bit more of a unified feeling. So that's quite good. Check the chat there again. Good. We'll wait for that to load. I'm trying to think. And I know that in our What's New, depending on what you've seen on the What's New, SolidWorks has been using that Nemo submersible. I don't think in the beginning of the video we actually gave that much background on that exact Nemo submersible, but it is basically a luxury. It's submarine. It's a luxury submersible. It's a great way to kind of go on your adventures on your own. Um, if you had to guess how much they cost, it's a cool 1.2 million per submarine. They're very cool looking. They are manufactured. That is a real product. But it is a $1.2 million submarine, which is actually, I think, quite fair if you want to go underwater safely and observe. It's actually quite cool. Um, so what we'll do at this point is that I'm going to go and check the chat there again, see if there's any other questions, and if there's nothing to address at this point, I think we should probably revisit our What's New and learn a little bit more about what's being offered there. So at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and progress into our next video. And if you guys have any questions, keep them going in the chat. We'll have another Q&A session coming up soon.
Graphics performance has been improving in SolidWorks for the last several releases, and that tradition continues with SolidWorks 2022. Lightweight graphics, cosmetic threads, 3D textures, and silhouette edges all see noticeable improvements with SolidWorks 2022. At any point in the design timeline, appearance changes can occur. Now in SolidWorks 2022, these changes propagate themselves to the graphical display no matter how the file is opened. In this case, a lightweight component, even though it has just minor appearance changes, switches over to resolved such that those changes are more visibly apparent. Several releases ago, SolidWorks introduced the ability to take a 2D appearance and map it into a 3D texture. SolidWorks 2022 can now very quickly adapt those textures no matter how you choose to modify them, giving you overall better performance in both the 2D and 3D texture modes. These textures are great for 3D printing and other purposes, or even just general renderings. Also in SolidWorks 2022, the cosmetic thread texture feature is greatly improved. It's a more realistic looking thread and makes use of your graphics performance. Whether those threads are external or, in the case of a whole wizard feature, internal, they look great in either situation. Also, silhouette edge is now rendered by your GPU rather than your CPU. And so in SolidWorks 2022, the frame rate increases significantly, giving you both better visual and speed appearance as you work with your large files. No matter how you choose to work in SolidWorks 2022, performance will be noticeably faster. SolidWorks has had administration images as a deployment scheme for quite some time, and in SolidWorks 2022, the options for these have improved. With SolidWorks 2022, We have additional image types that can be distributed, nested groups therein, the ability to distribute the vault view directly, and improvements on the electrical install options for your individual clients. When you run the SolidWorks installer, one of the choices that first comes up is to whether or not to create an admin image. This is such that a firm can distribute install sets to multiple clients throughout the firm, customized to their particular needs. Previously, there's always been an administrative image type. Now, for SOLIDWORKS 2022, we have a remote client image that's been added, and this is particularly helpful for VPN-distributed workplaces, where instead of pulling all the files from your firm, they can pull from solidworks.com directly. A compressed image is similar to a standard image, but in a compressed format that distributes more quickly. Here in our test scenario, we're going to create a number of groups. Each of the groups can have subgroups, and those inherit from the group above. Any of those subgroups have their install files gathered together in an XML series that distributes fairly quickly. In this example, there are a number of utilities that most of the team does not use, and we can clear those off. However, we do want PDM set up, and now for SOLIDWORKS 2022, we can have the vault view created at the conclusion of the admin image install. No more needing additional scripts to run on your own. It's all part of the original admin image. Also, on the electrical side, it is more clear when you do make the choice now for an admin image as to what setup of electrical that you're actually getting. In this case, the client-only distribution. Many firms have collaborative electrical setups, but otherwise standalone individual SOLIDWORKS clients. Whether you choose to deploy automatically or manually, both options are still fully supported with the new admin image types. SOLIDWORKS 2022 makes it much easier to create image types that are more suitable to however your team might be working. In actuality, you've been seeing some of the enhancements for SOLIDWORKS Visualize all throughout this presentation. Everything graphically displaying the renderings of the U-Bolt Works Nemo submersible was in fact produced with SOLIDWORKS Visualize 2022. Let's take a deeper dive into each of those enhancements. SOLIDWORKS 2022 Visualize allows for a matched camera utility, improved shadow catcher, improved patterning, grouping, and more. For a high-end commercial product such as the Nemo submersible, marketing animations and renderings are key to the sales capability of the product. This entire animation is all produced with Visualize 2022. HDR environments have been part of Visualize for quite some time. And when we put this scene in around our submersible product, the lighting for the beach scene looks really good, but the background is not exactly appropriate for the use. Here we can find an appropriate 2D image from elsewhere and make that the new backplate for the scene. Now, normally, aligning the camera of the 3D model versus the kind of perspective angle of our backplate would be a rather troublesome trial and error type process. Now with Visualize 2022, we have a match camera utility, and with a few guidelines to reference the perspective and horizon that we find in the 2D image, Visualize then matches the camera for the 3D model to align that with that of the 2D backplate. Now it's a simple matter of rotating the HDR environment to try to line up visually the shadows of our 3D model with those seen in the 2D image. This works quite well. However, notice that the shadow for the model kind of extends through what would be the wall of the ship. Fortunately, in SOLIDWORKS Visualize, we have some reference geometry, in this case a wall, that we can put to catch that shadow. Here we create our primitive, align it, and then position it such that it can catch the shadow and then turn around and enable that as a shadow catcher and then hide that geometry from the scene. The finished result is a nearly ideal merge of our 3D model and 2D scene with HDR environment. Now, ideally, it's desired to put the Nemo in its destined environment, in this case under the water. And we can easily do that with SOLIDWORKS Visualize by adding a configuration, keeping all those scenes in one single Visualize project. Here we adjust the lighting thereof, and now we go about populating the scene with some accessory objects. Previously in Visualize, there had to be at least a couple of instances otherwise defined in SOLIDWORKS or a CAD system to get effective patterns. Now in Visualize 2022, even just having a single accessory object, we can now do the patterning entirely in Visualize. In this case, for a school of fish, a scatter pattern is probably more appropriate than anything else. And the end effect looks fantastic. Now for the third rendering in our project, we have another configuration. And as we add the cameras, we can start building a timeline of the scenes. Here we start applying the explodes, and as we do so, additional keyframes get added. Now, previously, the more objects you had, the more keyframes. Gets harder and harder to manage. Now in Visualize 2022, we can actually start color coding some of those keyframes into groups that are easily visible on the timeline and easier to control and manage the entire scene arrangement. Continuing on, we can also populate the timeline with additional cameras. For a more professional effect, up to 3 cameras can be arranged easily to create a full perspective motion of our entire explode arrangement. With the sequence fully built up and all the cameras added, Visualize 2022 provides us the method to keyframe to each of the 3 cameras as needed, again producing a final sequence that without needing any other additional video editing software beyond Visualize itself. Now going back through each of our project configurations, we can set about the task of the final render, and now that everything looks good, Visualize can proceed on its own to do the rendering for us. Those render settings can be reviewed, and the projects are canceled if needed. Best of all the outputs are referenced together in the final project and can be viewed directly as entities in Visualize itself. With all these enhancements in Visualize 2022, any SOLIDWORKS model, no matter how complex, even to the complexity of the submersible, can be turned into top-notch marketing collateral by anyone with capable SOLIDWORKS skills. A few additional enhancements for SOLIDWORKS Visualize include better radius support, fully display of the new cosmetic thread option from SOLIDWORKS 2022 itself, and the ability to pull in multiple motion studies from your SOLIDWORKS files. Well, graphics and Visualize certainly show off some of the flashier enhancements of SOLIDWORKS 2022. Serious engineering improvements have also been made, and SOLIDWORKS inspection for QA engineers and QA technicians is one of the product areas where that is more evident. In SOLIDWORKS inspection, the standalone version supports many more file formats than before. Improved smart extraction utilities are available, and for the add-in side, new API is available in SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2022. When manufacturing something as complicated as the Nemo submarine, QA is an important process in the design and finished documentation. Whether the product manufacturing information be in drawings or directly in the 3D model files, SOLIDWORKS Inspection can handle that readily. Now in the standalone edition, we have the ability for new file types, both unigraphics and native SOLIDWORKS drawings, no longer needing to do part of the project in SOLIDWORKS and part in the standalone app. Now things can be done entirely in the standalone app if desired. Here we can use the Smart Extract and pull a lot of the information directly out of the title block, not needing to use the OCR techniques at all. Even the new geotolerance here in the title block gets captured in its entirety, frame and all, with all the relevant information and almost no typing on our behalf. Similarly, as we scan about the drawing, we can pick up complete all callouts, the new geotolerance frames, even with tolerances and additional aspects, and it all comes through completely in the new SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2022. Moving on, we can actually grab it in a single window, getting both of those elements as two individual characteristics in our characteristic list. Quantity instances and all the other things that we normally expect to work perfectly well here in the standalone app. But in some cases, not all firms have completed drawings, and Inspection 2022 handles that as well. For a more model-based engineering type approach, we can pick up these DimExpert dimensions and tolerances completely with the Smart Extract in Inspection Standalone. Even for a weldment type assembly, or any assembly for that matter, we can continue with the same approach. And for completeness sake, if we're going to stick with the model-based definition type arrangement of model-based engineering, even from Inspection Standalone, we can output that as a 3D PDF, pretty much the same format as came in or would be expected from model-based definition add-ins. So whether your models are complete, fully documented or not, you can handle it all with SOLIDWORKS Inspection Standalone. On the add-in side, here in SOLIDWORKS itself, a new complete full API has been added, and you can create your own macros to further enhance the automation capabilities and automatic report generation of SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2022. So no matter what your firm's preferred documentation style is, full drawings, intelligent models, or some mix in between, there's never been a better time to consider adding SOLIDWORKS Inspection for customers that have SOLIDWORKS Premium, or perhaps even the original add-in SOLIDWORKS routing as an independent product. There are significant enhancements to look forward to in SOLIDWORKS 2022. With SOLIDWORKS Routing 2022, seat points can now be created directly in the SOLIDWORKS window itself. Backshells and inline components are now fully supported, and of course Flatten Root now adapts to those inline backshells. When taking something as sophisticated as the Nemo submersible underwater, electrical and other circuitry are a key part of the overall design. In SOLIDWORKS Routing 2022, we can take advantage of all that electrical information. Now for this multi-pin connector, we can actually add some of the routing intelligent connection points using the information from the SOLIDWORKS electrical manufacturer part database. Here in this case, We can choose the manufacturer and component desired. And referencing that data, we can now add our C points directly in the SolidWorks graphics window, selecting edges or faces as needed to get those terminals added. At any later point, we can examine that information and clearly determine which of the pins in a multi-pin connector have been assigned so far. And we can continue on with the design process at any point we choose, adding the missing terminals wherever we want to, or whenever we want to. More time designing, less time switching applications. Now, for protection of overbending of cables and things of that nature, backshells are often used. And now, even though they're not stipulated in the electrical schematic, we do have them available in the SolidWorks routing library. Here in the Nemo design, there are actually a few of these routes that already have the backshells added to them. In this case, we're using a 45-degree bend backshell. Going to the design library, under electrical inline components, we can now select a variety of pre-made backshells for us and add those into our routes. Even for routes that have already been done, we can adjust the route to take advantage of that new inline backshell. Here, even in this case, where the exit of the backshell is not directly collinear to the connector itself, we can adjust the route to handle that. Selecting that back edge, the route and spline updates itself correctly. Furthermore, when it comes time to producing finished documentation for any of these routes, we can now use the flatten route utility and, choosing either of the routes, show the full flattened arrangement, including the inline backshells. In the Flatten Route Property Manager, we can choose the level of detail desired. In this case, the manufacturer part information and the 3D connector information, having it automatically self-generate into our finished documentation. SolidWorks Routing 2022 makes it easier and more effective to do detailed routings, models, and finished drawings all easily within your SolidWorks. Also in SolidWorks Routing 2022, cable points can be created directly in the graphics window rather than using the library manager, as we saw with connection points, and bend radiuses for both cables and harnesses are improved in SolidWorks Routing 2022. Along with the flatten route enhancements that we saw, better handling of external connectors has been made possible, and we can edit the flattened route segments before producing the finished drawing. And for the schematic side of SolidWorks 2022, there are enhancements to the electrical schematic application as well. There's always been a content portal that we could activate in SolidWorks Electrical, but now is more integrated directly in the software interface. Here we're looking at the original content portal, which normally launches just regularly in the web browser, any browser of your choice for that matter. And brands are adding new components all the time and new catalog specifications with additional manufacturer data. Now in Electrical 2022, we can launch that content portal and have it appear as a panel directly to the right side of the software. Here we can search much like we would in the browser edition, and we can just browse for new content, or in this case, search for the manufacturer Wago as we were showing previously. Coming down to the PLC library, we can see that it has a variety of modules, whether as 2D symbols, footprints, or even 3D parts. Although it may seem like a small enhancement, Having this information directly at your fingertips in the one application can make your SOLIDWORKS designs more effective and easier to complete. Additionally, in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, we now have better control in a multi-user environment with more groups and faster operations. And in the electrical reports, hyperlinks can now reference more than one destination, making it much more usable in terms of referencing both inside and outside of your electrical schematic projects. SOLIDWORKS Simulation 2022 has a number of enhancements that become quite useful in the design of something as sophisticated as our NEMO submersible. We have a new virtual connector type for linkage rods. The blended curvature mesher, which has been in simulation for some time, now has better controls, and the overall improved performance is available when running the same studies from previous versions now in SOLIDWORKS Simulation 2022. These capabilities provide speedier analysis creation and improved performance. Here in our NEMO submersible, there are a number of areas that are important to simulate prior to taking this into the open ocean. The framework of the NEMO submersible has a large number of bonded interactions, and those all solve up to 27% faster than it did even in simulation 2021. Now, at the top of our submersible, the important hatch is a hand wheel and linkage over toggle mechanism. It applies 500 newtons of force on the rim to get an adequate seal for diving. Thanks to the cyclic symmetry involved, we can divide that down to 1/3 of the original model and solve on that. Furthermore, we can take out the purchased linkage rod and replace it with our new virtual connector. That new virtual connector has options for attaching to cylinders or vertices as needed, and we can have our attachment endpoints even be spherical ends, ball ends for the linkage rods as needed. In this case, we'll specify our 2 pins where we're attached to, and we'll put a spherical end on the end conditions. Furthermore, we can even stipulate the section parameters to get it closer to the actual purchased item that we use. Now, on the meshing, the blended curvature mesh does a very good job, but now we also have controls where we can specify refinement above or below the minimum or maximum as specified by the original mesher conditions. Once that's all set, we can now very quickly run our analysis. We'll apply a torque to represent the action on the hand wheel, and we'll divide the nominal force applied by most people by the 1/3 that we have for the rest of the model. Running the analysis and looking at the results, we can look at the contact force executed by the finger of the over toggle mechanism. Now again, our desired minimum was 500 newtons, but this value times 3 isn't quite there yet. So with a choice of a slightly longer configuration of our over toggle bar, we can very quickly rerun the same simulation, examine that contact force again, and this time we are in fact, which is that 10 millimeters of different length in the finger, exceeding our 500 Newton minimum requirement. All of these things make it much easier to work with in SOLIDWORKS Simulation 2022 allowing you to solve complex designs in record time. Further enhancements in Simulation 2022 include even better automatic solver selection. The algorithms choose the appropriate solver in 100% of the cases now, and also the beam shear factor calculation has been corrected for SOLIDWORKS Simulation 2022. Of course, for a vehicle like our Nemo submarine, flow is every bit as important, if not more so, than our structural simulations. And SOLIDWORKS Flow 2022 provides key enhancements that will help the development of this vehicle. There are a number of improvements in the Transient Explorer, new plots that we can use, and new goals that we can set as part of our analysis. Now for SOLIDWORKS 2022 simulation, we're going to take a look at the lighting system on the Nemo submarine. It's composed of a variety of high-power LED bulbs. And these switch on at different power levels and 3 primary settings to illuminate the area ahead of the craft. Now, we've done a transient analysis passing through 3 different power levels from 2 to 6 watts. Once the analysis is complete, we can use the Transient Explorer to get more insight into how things are progressing through a typical dive scene. In this case, Transient Explorer shows the plots of the power flow and gives us some insight. We can also set equation goals after the fact and use those to calculate a new plot based on other goals already in the system. We've also run some steady state studies on some experiments, assigning individual power settings to specific bulbs, either left or right side, top or bottom, in specific arrangements rather than the entire set as a group. Now we can compare results across multiple projects, but oftentimes lining them up side by side really doesn't give a complete story of what's going on. Now with Simulation Flow 2022, we can combine those with a merge option and look at the min and max of the merged plot, giving us better insight over the total arrangement. Also, we now have difference plots, and we can compare those from a current project to a reference project and see a baseline across projects. Also, the scene plot has been improved, completely storing all the model orientation, visibility, and other information. Creating that perfect scene captures your display settings regardless of where the current model is as far as its display condition. SOLIDWORKS Flow Simulation 2022 keeps you in control of all your results and your studies and makes it easier to evaluate a complete project, no matter how complex the design iterations may have become. SOLIDWORKS Flow 2022 also includes enhancements for the ability to copy probes across different projects, improved geometry checks, finding of missing entities from a study, and improvements in the surface parameter calculation. All of these will be well suited to a craft such as the Nemo. Of course, a specialized case of flow simulation is looking at the flow of molten plastic through an injection mold and how well it fills that mold to make your finished plastic part. And that's, of course, what SolidWorks Plastics is all about. New for 2022, we have improvements in boundary conditions, runner creation, the injection mold advisor, and of course, we always improve the material database every release. These improvements and others in SolidWorks Plastics help us in designing some of the pieces that are handholds and other devices in our Nemo submarine. Now, at the top of the sub, on either side of the hatch, there are two handholds, left and right hand, and these are molded out of injection molded plastic. Now, in this case, we're going to take a look at one side of that, and we're going to apply one of the materials from our database. For Plastics 2022, there are 100 new materials and improvements to 1,500 other materials, giving more accurate results than ever before. In this particular case, we're going to choose a suitable Delrin material for our handhold. The new injection location mold advisor, chooses the optimum location, the advisor even indicates the appropriate direction of pull. In this case, we had already previously set a sketch space runner, and new for 2022, the controls for creating the runner based on the sketch are further improved. We can merely set the diameters appropriately, and the system helps handle the rest. Now, again, our handholds are left and right cases, and we can use now a new symmetry condition to produce a virtual mold set, including those two left and right hand versions. However, for a part such as this, it might also be reasonable to create a circular family mold. And with the cyclic symmetry condition, we can do that as well. Again, picking the axis of the sprue, we can rotate about, creating as many instances as we can possibly fit. And even if we'd chosen to do that with a solid runner rather than a sketch-based runner, both of those symmetry conditions work as well for those as well. Now, when we take a look at the analysis, we can run through the entire scenario, and when we're done, show the results for the full virtual mold case. All of these improvements make it much faster and easier to design better SOLIDWORKS plastics parts and ensure more throughput in your plastic mold designs. Additionally, in SOLIDWORKS plastics, the solvers are now 20 and 50% faster, and we have better support on the results, particularly when working with higher resolution 4 and 5K monitor screens. These are just a few of the improvements that make using SOLIDWORKS plastics much more efficient than ever before.
Right. Thank you, John. Thank you, Pog. All right. So, John, thanks for all those enhancements and talking about those. So, I'm still stuck on a couple different things. And of course, we want to do a little Q&A. So if you guys have more questions, leave them in the chat. We'll make sure to address those and get to them. But I am still stuck on the FX20 and Visualize. And those are the two things I saw there that really kind of caught my eye. Now, if you're familiar with Markforged, it's a continuous fiber reinforcement. It's a great solution. It's a good printer, but they introduced the FX20, and I was getting chills. I was getting chills over that printer because it's massive. I mean, yes, big printers are a thing. Strong printers are a thing. But big, strong printers, like I'm getting chills at the components they can make with that level of fiber reinforcement and the size of the materials. I mean, even the spools are 4 times the size of an average spool. It is going to be an amazing printer, and I can't wait to see what comes out of that. So I'm very excited for the FX20, a little bit more release, and then when we see more come, more content comes about it. And then Visualize. So John was showing us some things about Visualize there. And I always share this with all the students. We do a lot of trainings. We do a lot of custom trainings, a lot of essentials and things like that. And I always share with students that if your company has SolidWorks and you are either on professional or premium, so there's standard, professional, premium, If you're on professional and premium, and your company is paying your subscription every year, meaning that you always get to upgrade, you're always getting support, the typical stuff when you buy SolidWorks, you are entitled to Visualize Standard, meaning that you get a separate installation of SolidWorks Visualize Standard, which is incredibly powerful. And personally, I think it blows PhotoView 360, the old rendering software, blows it completely out of the water. And then there's KeyShot. And it's been a while since I worked on KeyShot, but I'd like to say that it is comparable, if not better, than KeyShot. It is a SolidWorks own program. It works strictly with SolidWorks files, and you can also import more files into it. But I mean, you saw all those Nemo drawings, all those renderings of the submersible. And I mean, those were quite realistic, and they're beautiful looking. And that's a product by SolidWorks, which is quite incredible. But again, a lot of users are like, oh, that's such a cool program, but they never really think about like how they'll get it. And it's like, you have it for free. If you're on subscription, you've got one of those 2 tiers, you're in the door. You got SolidWorks Visualize. So even if you don't have time to play with it, find an intern. Find one of the mechanical AEs. Give it to someone in marketing. Like, give it to anybody. I mean, it's a fun tool, and you can make some really realistic looking renderings there. So I would definitely encourage you guys to try doing that. So Visualize is a good program. We got FX20, so that's a big enhancement there as well. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat there. I know the last couple questions we had was from Michael about mesh bodies and B-Wrap and things like that. I'm trying to actually remember the SolidWorks Visualize program. I make mention of this every once in a while. I want to say it's Winter Soldier, the Captain America movies, the Winter Soldier. There's the Hydra Schmidt coupe. It's what the bad guy drives, right? It's this big, long, red, crazy looking vehicle with these white wheels, and it's just like the bad guy German car. It's of course it's like Nazi times with the Avengers and Captain America, and it goes back and it's a good movie. But more importantly, I mention this because part of the vehicle is physically modeled and rendered inside of SolidWorks Visualize. So if you actually do a quick little Google online, if you go into YouTube videos and you look up the Hydra Schmidt coupe in SolidWorks Visualize, you will see an unbelievable animation of basically the panning around the car with some music, looking in and zooming out. That's entirely made in SolidWorks Visualize. And it looks very realistic, very sleek, very cool looking car. But it's just kind of cool to see SolidWorks Visualize being incorporated into Hollywood. That's some big stuff there. So I'm very excited about those aspects. So if you can at some point, look that up. Will John's hit list be posted somewhere? It 100%. So John has been working on that hit list, and that is complete. What we'll do is actually John's in a couple of rooms over there, and what I'll do is I'll talk to him and figure out where it's going to be posted. But 100%, I think there's going to be email or resource that will be shared for that. Absolutely. They can make a note of that and find out if it's not already shared somewhere, where we're going to share it and how it's going to be made accessible to you. And I'll write a little note that says Craig is asking that. Craig, Mir, and 2022 hit list. I was going to say I have a copy of the hit list. I have a copy of it, but I have to find out where it's going to be publicly put in the space there for you guys. It'll be good. We're excited for it. All right, so we'll give it just another minute there, and then we'll ask if there's any other questions, and then we're going to share some very fun videos on our additive manufacturing, all the solutions that we have available. Have him email you. All right, fine. I'm going to write down your full name. Okay. John needs to email Craig Lumiere his what's new. I'll make sure to do that. I'll say, hey, John, Craig wants it. Fantastic. All right, guys. So that's about 5 minutes of break time there in Q&A. And at this time, why don't we transition into our additive manufacturing there? I think we're going to get a tour from Mr. Pog and James Farrell himself. And guys, if you have any other questions, leave them in the chat and I'll get to them, okay? Thank you so much.
Welcome, everybody, to the 2022 SolidWorks launch. I'm James O'Farrell. I'm the head of additive manufacturing here at SolidXperts. And so we're going to take a little sidetrack to the 3D printing department and kind of give you a grand tour of our room and show her some of our portfolio and how we've diversified ourselves in the last year to be able to meet the demands of your needs and your projects moving forward in our additive manufacturing department. So if you come with me, we're going to do a tour through our facility. So as you can see, we have a training facility here, so we are able to provide, on the SolidWorks end, we have the infrastructure to provide training for your team and consulting. And so as we walk down, we see more training sessions going on in our facility as well. And so as we turn the corner here, we're going to be hitting our fabrication, our additive fabrication room. So I'm just going to stop you right there. Before we go in, I'm going to need you to pay attention and just keep an eye out for this logo right here. We've strategically placed these across the room. So what this contest will entail is that you count the exact number of our logo, 3D printed. We 3D printed these logos. And essentially what we're going to do is towards the end, you're going to submit a count of these logos. And the winner that gets the exact count, so the two quickest persons to register in the chat, the exact count will win $100 gift certificate cards from Amazon. And so the winner will be announced towards the end of the event of the 2022 SolidWorks launch, when our management team will be giving off their sending off message. They will announce the winner, and it will also be provided as well in our social media outlets such as LinkedIn and Facebook if you are looking to see if you won. If you didn't get the exact account, the two people that are the closest to the number will be declared the winner as well. So pay attention, and now we're going to come on in here. So this is our additive manufacturing room. This is where the magic happens. So as you can see here, if we start off, we have our logo, which I'm giving you one free count here. And next to this logo, we have some 3D scanners. So here at SolidXperts, we've had the opportunity to expand our portfolio. And so now we have the ability to do some reverse engineering, whether it's small scale parts, very, very detailed resolution. So if you're looking for really accurate parts, or you're even looking for large-scale parts up to buildings and scanning factory floors, we have scanners for all shapes and sizes. And so for all your reverse engineering needs, you can also reach out to our team. We can accommodate that. So this is part of our expansion here at SolidXperts, is that we're growing in the fabrication space, additive manufacturing space. And so here's the first 3D printer that we're going to take a grand tour here. We have our Builder 3D. So anybody who's looking to validate parts, large-scale parts, we have that capability now. The great thing about the Builder 3D printer is that we can print parts that are up to 1.7 meters. So given this can provide a lot of your needs. This printer here is the Builder 1500. So we're looking at a width of 1.1 meters, depth of 500 millimeters, and the height 828 millimeters. So any parts that you need to validate or do large-scale jigs and fixtures, we have printers, and these are printers that are accessible, great price point. So if you want to know more information, feel free to reach out to our team. We can provide you more information or personalized demo. Now, when we're looking at versatility and rapid prototyping, we have here, as you can see, our Raise 3D printer. Again, a printer that's of leading edge in technology. It's a fraction of the cost of what's going on the market right now. Very accessible for any company that's getting started. You have versatility in terms of material. You also have a camera that you can monitor. You have a large print table here. In terms of height, you can go up to 23 inches, and on the depth and width is 13 by 12 inches. So you have a great rapid prototyping machine, industrial, runs 7 days a week, not a whole lot of maintenance, and this is a machine that can really meet the demands of industrial industry needs. So essentially the Raise 3D very powerful software and a great value added proposition. And as you can see here, some fantastic parts were printed in terms of surface finish. Absolutely amazing. As you can see, very accurate, very precise, smooth surface finish. This is done in PLA, by the way, so it gives you a very clear indication of how precise you can get with these printers. So if you want to know more, feel free to reach out. Now, we can move on here to our Markforged 3D printers. These printers we've had a partnership with them for 5 years now, and we've seen it grown. And this is really, if you're looking for a robust, reliable machine, we have everything from plastic composites that print plastic composite parts as strong as aluminum. We literally have a metal printer also as well that prints parts in copper, stainless steel. We also have Inconel, H13 metals, A2D2 metals. So we're really looking into tooling steel and also just really expanding in terms of your 3D printed parts in metal. Regarding plastic composite parts, this is an absolute game changer because you have a technology that can create continuous fibers, whether it's carbon fiber, fiberglass, Kevlar. And so when you're looking for functional parts on the production floor, end-use parts, automotive parts, the versatility of this machine and the robustness of it in terms of maintenance on your robotics equipment, the list goes on in terms of applications. So if you're looking for versatility, reliability, and low maintenance, this is one of the keys to a solid 3D printer, is having an easy to maintain and an autonomous machine for your company where you're not spending man hours fixating on a machine. The Markforged 3D printer answers all of those needs and more. So again, we do provide consultations on these machines. We provide demos. We also provide 3D printing services to help out in need if we need to. We also have clients that do 3D printing services. So depending on your needs, we can always consult on your project. So feel free to reach out and we can always guide you in the right direction when it comes to your 3D printing needs on the FDM side. So we've expanded into Formlabs. And Formlabs, once again, is a SLA technology, so it's more of a liquid resin. So anybody who's looking for R&D and versatility in terms of parts, whether it's precision, smooth surface finish, whether it's intricate parts, or even rubber materials, very unique properties with the Formlabs. Sorry about that. With the Formlabs 3D printers, we have the capability, with the Formlabs 3D printers, we have this amazing capability of getting smooth surface finishes, accurate parts, whether it's for molds that are for low production volume. We have that capability with high temperature materials, rigid materials. We have elastic materials. We can even cast these parts. And so you have a technology that requires, is manipulated with a UV razor and essentially a UV laser, and produces parts right here, this end-use parts such as this. So you get a very versatile machine. So if accuracy, precision is your need, look no further than the Formlabs Form 3L or the Form 3. So depending on the size of parts you need, we have a small print bed here for small parts that vary between 5.7 inches by 5.7 inches by 7.5 inches in terms of height. And then we can go up to 14 inches here in terms of print bed size as well. And so finally, on our grand tour of the Formlabs right here, we have another technology that's an absolute game changer. It's the SLS printer right here. So when it comes to SLS technology, the Formlabs has really worked on a printer to bring to market that is, again, of leading edge in terms of technology, is a fraction of the cost of what's out there on the market, and creating a reliable part that creates beautiful surface finishes right here. This part right here is a nylon 12, and essentially that has the characteristics where you can look for functional parts, you can look for accurate parts, and also what's great with the SLS technology, if you're looking for production run, low volume production, you can stack your parts one on top of each other because there's no support material, versus an FDM technology where you have a nozzle that's drying out your part and creating support material. This one, you can not only use the entire print bed on terms of the surface, but you can also pile one on top of the other in terms of the height. So for low volume production, if you're looking for smooth, reliable parts, organic shaped parts, and also with a nylon 12, you can get a really solid part as well, solid functional part. The Fuse 1 here from Formlabs could answer a lot of those needs and definitely could meet the demands of your projects. We also have a nylon 11, so if you're looking for a little bit more flexibility, this could be a machine also that can meet the needs for you there. And so just to give you the final grand tour of the Fuse 1, what's great about it is the workflow. So the transition is really well done here. It's really well thought out. So just to give you a quick final peek here. Right here we have a build chamber right in here. We have the nylon powder right on the side here. So we have the nylon powder right here on the side that feeds in here, and it goes layer by layer. And on top you have a laser that draws out the design of your part. And so each layer goes into the build chamber here. And from there, when your print is done, you transition this build chamber all the way into here. And from there, you just pull it out. You pull out your cube. It will be a block of powder. And you're going to clean your part here. And what's great about this is that you have a plexiglass that will not allow the powdered particles to float and circulate in your work environment. So it makes it very safe. You also have a filter here and a fan to suck in any loose particles that are floating around. For the rest, you can recycle your powder in this cartridge here down below. So you have a very nice workflow in terms of your station. So in terms of the nylon 12, you can recycle up to 70% of your powder and transition it back into the machine. Or with your nylon 11, it would be 50% that you can transition back. So again, versatility, smooth workflow, and also a fraction of the cost of what's going on the market. So this is the grand tour for our additive manufacturing plant here, room here at SolidXperts. I hope you enjoyed the tour, and if you are looking for any additional information or you're interested in some of our products and solutions, it'll be our pleasure to discuss with you and your team some of the potential products that we have that could maybe meet the demands of your project. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Have a great day and enjoy the show, and hope to see you soon.
it's Renee Force here again, and in this session we're going to be talking about cloud simulation. When we're talking about cloud simulation, we'll be seeing how we can leverage our 3D experience tools when testing your designs. When you test your products virtually or in the real world, naturally you're going to be exploring numerous design options, evaluating how long they will last, and finding out when and where ultimate failure may occur. It's no easy task. When simulating numerous physics and loading scenarios, collecting and making sense of all the data can be daunting and time-consuming. This is especially the case when the design and analysis tools are disconnected or limited. But there is a better way. With the 3D Experience platform, we are providing a collection of best-in-class simulation apps built with industry-leading technology, including Abacus and FE Safe, that connects seamlessly with your SolidWorks products. Adam, an analyst who is working on our Nemo submarine to help satisfy their safety and certification requirements when it comes to the battery compartment and skid, has a few remaining tasks before the project is complete. With a depth rating of 100 meters, it is critical that the battery component can withstand the pressures beyond that depth to ensure safe operation. At the same time, weight and cost must be reduced whenever possible. Adam considers the thickness of the steel tubes and stiffeners and defines the associated dimensions as parameters to be optimized. He then saves and uploads the model to the platform and launches the structural model creation app to start the simulation process. Once uploaded to the platform, a mesh is created. The automated FEM recognizes the thin components of the model and creates mid-surfaces and associated shells, meshes, and mesh bodies, all in one command. Next, Adam creates the structural scenario that defines the loads and boundary conditions to simulate the maximum designed depth rating. At first glance, the results, it is obvious the structure is over-designed, so Adam launches the Parametric Design Study app, selects the parameters and goals of interest, and lets the computer do the rest of the work. Once the study is complete, Adam can easily interpret and compare the performance of the various configurations. The best design is even highlighted for him. With one click, the new model and study using the optimal parameters is created, so Adam can take a closer look. But he has additional tasks to complete first. The pressure load on the battery compartment happens multiple times throughout the life of the Nemo. Another loading condition that repeats is the impact of the skid when putting the Nemo away for storage. To simulate the secondary loading condition, Adam creates an explicit dynamic study to accurately capture the rapidly changing stress from the landing cycle. How does the skid come in contact with the floor? Well, Adam lets the solver figure that out with one simple yet powerful general contact interaction. To greatly decrease the solve time, Adam also chooses to run the simulation on the cloud. Leveraging its high performance and computational power, Adam can even shut down his computer while the simulation runs. The stress values are within an expected range, but how many times can the Nemo withstand both this and the pressure load? To reveal the answer, Adam sets up a durability study. He defines the fatigue loading that captures both events. For the explicit dynamic results, he includes all increments to account for the fluctuations in the response. Adam also includes both stress and strain in the calculation to improve the accuracy and to solve for both high and low cycle fatigue. Both sequences occur in the loading history, but they are exclusive events, so he turns off the inter-event transition option. Lastly, he defines the base surface finish and solves for the results. The results are not only available to Adam, but they may be viewed by other collaborators from their internet browser, so everyone can get the latest information instantly from one place. Adam's last task is to identify when and where ultimate failure may occur if the Nemo gets too deep. Leveraging the same study set up from the first scenario, he defines a Rix buckling setup and goes further than a typical Eugene value buckling analysis and is well suited for an unstable and nonlinear collapse structure and doesn't require setting up more complex dynamic analysis. Processing the results is simple too. Adam plots the load factor and visualizes areas of the compartment. And by using the 3D Experience platform to explore numerous design options, evaluate durability, and understand critical loading events, Adam and his team were able to make informed and timely decisions to help fulfill their safety and certification requirements. We'll now be continuing into SolidWorks PDM. With 2022, we have the introduction of user presence cards, a more robust use of the eDrawings UI inside of the eDrawings preview, integration with XLead OnePart, as well as more features when opening drawings inside of PDM. We've also brought in Active Directory enhancements as well as user profile enhancements for your SolidWorks users. We now have support for detailing mode, as well as we can preview natural files in Web 2, as well as configure data cards to enhance the user experience when accessing PDM through the Web 2 client as a PDM Pro customer. As we will see in this upcoming video, there have been many enhancements and many UI changes that you'll enjoy using in the future. SolidWorks PDM 2022 introduces powerful new capabilities to keep your designs on time and on budget, while keeping your design teams organized and informed. With tight timelines, it's critical to know what your teammates are up to. With PDM 2022, however, hovering your mouse over the new login profile picture provides quick access to editing the presence note, allowing you to update your activity for the day. Want to know what your teammates are up to? Simply hover your mouse over their username to find out. New for 2022, transitioning from the bitmap preview to the eDrawings preview is now more discoverable with the help of a dedicated button. Integrating your models is now easier than ever with eDrawings desktop UI fully embedded. This familiar interface allows access to commonly used commands like the measure tool with all of its options. It also provides full access to component design tree, allowing you to cross-highlight between model geometry and the component list. Keeping the design costs in check is fine balance between designing from scratch and reusing past designs. For example, we need an ultralight deck plate for this new design. New to PDM 2022 is the ability to incorporate your licensed XLead OnePart environment into PDM Pro. XLead OnePart is a powerful search and discovery application that allows you to gain deep insight into your vaulted data. OnePart not only presents you with the results, but also highlights parts that share a 3D similarity. Selecting 3 components allows us to compare them side by side in order to find the part with the least amount of weight. With the part identified, a simple click of the button opens it in SolidWorks, allowing us to complete the assembly design while avoiding the cost of creating a duplicate part. No design is complete without ensuring the drawings are updated. New to PDM 2022 is the ability to use the Open Drawing command regardless of what the drawing is named or where it's located in the vault. This command has been added to the right mouse click menu in PDM add-in, allowing you to quickly access component drawings as well. As an admin, bringing new users into PDM is now easier than ever. The users and groups nodes have been consolidated, making them easier to find. The user property card has been updated as well. For Active Directory users, the profile picture will now also be imported directly from your Windows Active Directory, and there are now more user fields available, making it easier for properties to be mapped over. And the group property card, administrators can now overwrite the Windows group name with a more descriptive name, making it easier to identify in the tree. Ensuring company standards is a key capability of SolidWorks PDM. New for 2022 is the ability to block the transition of drawings that are saved in detailing mode. In addition to transition blocks, we're able to look at system variables for drawings saved in detailing mode. This is a new variable that can be utilized in places like data cards in order to provide enhanced visibility to the state drawings are in. Receiving supplier designs in the form of neutral formats is an easy way to expedite the design process. New for Web 2 is the ability to fully preview these formats, such as STEP, IGES, Parasolid, and they can be viewed directly inside the web browser. Also new for Web 2 is the ability to customize your data card preview. Removing properties like project name and project number from the card view is now easily accomplished in the administration tool. An option called Show in Web Card is available for each property control on the card. Additionally, a dedicated web card editor has been added. This tool allows you to rename fields that otherwise would have displayed the variable name. The layout of the card can be toggled to tree mode, allowing admins to drag and drop properties where they would like. Once saved, a simple refresh of the browser updates the view. With new user controls, search integrations, and previewing capabilities, SolidWorks PDM 2022 provides you the tools that you need to maximize your productivity while keeping your files secure. Now, with the advancement of some of these options, we can see here that when we're working with our AD advanced options, we're now able to search based off of partial names, so no longer needing to know the exact login name of a user or a group that you wish to add. We can also see our tool where we're able to edit the name of the engineering group so that we're not forced to use the US Central Manufacturing Engineers name that your Windows Active Directory understands. We're also able to more easily import groups as we're able to list already found results before the stop command is invoked. This means that if you hit stop while running a search, it'll show you the names of the groups that it had already discovered before terminating the search for any new groups. We can also map in more properties using our AD custom property mapping. We also have new user properties available for our data cards. We're able to reference new properties in these created data cards as special values, static texts in our frames, edit boxes, and combo boxes. There's also more tools available for us for configurations, and we're able to set new default values as well as new display options. Data card editors can be opened to apply default as the @ configuration, as well as users can choose to display the @ configuration on the data card by default. Category support is now available with our data cards so that you can set up data cards that are available depending on the category that your card exists for. You can also set them up so that your search cards are dependent on that category as well. Do note that this feature is not available for the quick search tool as of yet. There's also been several performance upgrades, allowing your PDM to be more stable, as well as run faster when using it either on your desktop against your server or when using it in the Web 2 application. Also note that the end of life for SQL 2014 is fully committed at this point, and that if you do intend to jump to SolidWorks PDM 2022, you will need to upgrade your SQL licenses. It will no longer allow you to run on SQL 2014 Service Pack 3. You will want to keep this in mind. In our next topic, we're going to be looking at SolidWorks 2022 and the enhancements that they have made to SolidWorks Manage. For those of you that are unaware, SolidWorks Manage is a PLM tool, and some of the new enhancements that we've added to this are things such as adding in custom HTML notifications, adding in web links to documents, being able to create favorite searches for bill of materials that you or your coworkers can use, editing completed tasks, adding in a task tab to SolidWorks, creating a comment tab in SolidWorks, and just overall creating some better integration with our BOMs as well as with our Microsoft products so that you can more easily collaborate with other members of your team, as well as being able to see important project information while you are going through your project. In this next video, we'll be being walked through by a member of the SolidWorks team some of these enhancements as well as how they'll appear on your end experience.
SolidWorks Manage 2022 introduces convenient new ways to access, share, and document your designs. New for this release is the ability to create HTML formatted notifications. These notifications can be visually customized to highlight key information for users. Also new is the ability to incorporate web links, allowing users to easily access the record in the Manage Web portal. This ECO is requesting the tank supplier assigned in the bill of material be reviewed and updated to the preferred vendor. New for 2022 is the ability to create saved filters for the BOM. These filters can be user-specific or saved for enterprise use. Collaboration with others can expedite problem resolution. New is the ability to share the BOM by email or by link. Applied filters are honored, and reference columns can be selected for edit. This shared BOM allows key stakeholders the ability to edit the bill of material without having access to SolidWorks Manage. Once edits are saved, these changes are reflected in the original record. Dashboards can also take advantage of the new web link capability, making it easy for users like project managers to access key projects while on the road. This design task has been marked completed, but needs to be revisited. New for 2022 is the ability to uncomplete a task, allowing the assignee to finish any loose ends. For SolidWorks users, the Manage add-in has many new enhancements. A tab has been added, allowing users to see their assigned tasks, and a convenient filter option filters only tasks that have SolidWorks files connected to them. Familiar tools like the task board are also available, with the added ability to create new tasks directly from the board. From the structure view, selecting a specific component now shows any comments that have been made on the record, allowing users to see feedback associated with the design. New in 2022 is support for top-down bill of material design. This assembly has 2 items manually added to the BOM, each with a quantity of 2. These 2 files now show up in a dedicated tab called Manually Added Files, allowing easy access for them to be placed in the assembly model. Once added, they turn red and can be removed from the list. Uniquely serializing components provides important traceability, and capturing uniquely serialized components as linked records is a powerful capability of Manage. New for 2022 is the ability to reference the linked record BOM directly on the drawing. Additionally, these linked records are now just a right mouse button click away, providing quick access to supporting documentation like the Certificate of Conformance. New in 2022 is the Manage add-in for Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This add-in provides convenient access to common Manage commands. Document properties like the description of this Word document are easily added. In addition to referencing the active document properties, you can also access the properties from a completely different record, saving time and ensuring accuracy. With new ways to access, share, and document your designs, SolidWorks Manage 2022 takes the management of your product data to the next level.
So as we can see, there have been many enhancements done to the SolidWorks Manage suite with the introduction of SolidWorks and Manage 2022. As we can see, we now have the ability to show the latest versions of BOMs, as well as being able to see more information about the custom properties and file properties of anything that's tracked with our managed system. We've also been given the ability to sort by task order in projects, as well as getting more strength and more control over our timesheets to track time spent working on projects, as well as getting things out the door. We then have added the ability to open attached files, as well as being able to see the automatic assignment of users or groups of users based off of inputs or from templates that we have created as our admin. There's also been more features added for being able to control what happens when tasks are created/deleted, as well as being able to add notes to our tasks. We've introduced some new administration tools to allow people to have better control over the users and their access to your managed system. So being able to control how they can interact with projects and when they can interact with projects, as well as being able to force the ability to remember or forget passwords upon sign-in to prevent users from leaving themselves permanently signed in on their computers. With that, we will be taking a look at cloud management. All right. Now that we've talked about on-prem data solutions, we're going to be talking about cloud data management. Similar to our simulation tools that we saw earlier, as well as seeing our part modeling earlier, SolidWorks now offers a way to do data management on the cloud, as we will see inside of this video. Whether you work in a large organization or just a small team, no doubt you're concerned with storing, managing, and collaborating on design data. And it's tricky because, well, SolidWorks parts, assemblies, drawings, and other supporting documents are all linked. Other consumer cloud storage apps don't know how to handle this, and maybe the investment into SolidWorks PDM and Manage just isn't right for you. There is another way. When you connect SolidWorks to the 3D Experience platform, cloud data management is just a few clicks away. Eric, one of our engineers, and Debbie, one of our designers, are a part of the team working on the Nemo submersible. They're a tight deadline to finish up the hatch design. So Eric puts the finishing touches on the latch mount by inserting fasteners from SolidWorks Toolbox and a quick check on the assembly drawing to make sure everything is up to date and ready to be saved to the cloud. To do this, he first logs into the 3D Experience platform and his team's secure connection to the cloud right from his task pane. He sees the status of his work. These indicators show which components need to be saved. As for the hardware and other standard parts, SolidWorks is configured to automatically catalog and release these items so all users can access them in their shared libraries. The save dialog shows exactly which items require an update. You can also assign any item into a bookmark, such as a related drawing files. Out of the long list of components like this, bookmarks are a convenient way to flag for easy access. Only the new or changed items are going to be uploaded to the cloud. This makes efficient use of the network bandwidth, but still ensures that everything is up to date. As the leader of the engineering team, Eric is able to release his own drawings. Easy-to-use lifecycle operations like this helps the team avoid accidental overwrites. Switching over to his Bookmarks tab, he then sets the related part and assembly drawings to be released. Currently, it's just 2 drawings, but as the detailing work continues, the bookmark will keep everything organized for quick access. This includes any other supporting documents, such as this PDF instruction sheet and related SolidWorks Composer file. Most document types can be previewed interactively with the SolidWorks task pane. No need to be loading external viewing apps. Eric also has a backlog of finished designs that need to be uploaded to the cloud. This can be automated by using a batch save where he selects his local design folders and assigns them to the appropriate cloud space. SolidWorks, as well as the 3D Experience tools, will handle the rest for you. As the Nemo sub design evolves, the team must respond to change orders quickly. Debbie logs into her session and sees a message from Eric requesting a change. A quick keyword search shows several results. This one looks right. Debbie uses 3D annotation tools to quickly sketch out a couple of ideas. From here, she opens the SolidWorks part in SolidWorks, and the latest version is automatically retrieved from the cloud. Before she makes any design changes, it's best to do a where use search. The hand wheel is used in one sub-assembly below the master hatch assembly. She can open that right into her modeling session and get to work. This version of the subassembly is released. In order to make changes, Debbie needs to create a revision of the assembly and the hand wheel. The status indicators immediately show the current assembly structure is out of date, so she replaces it with the new revisions and sets them to be reserved. This gives her right access to the items she needs to modify without logging other users out of the rest of the assembly. The redesigned handwheel looks great, but she needs to update the drawing. The shared bookmarks give Debbie quick access to related drawing files. The drawing is now in sync with the part model, so she saves it to revision B. Then she sets the part and drawing to a frozen state so they can be reviewed. Returning to the assembly, she finishes out the design by adding the latch mechanisms and saves the new revision back into the cloud. In order to meet their tight deadline, the Nemo team often needs to work on the same design files at the same time. Eric is working on a new revision of the master hatch assembly. These icons let him know that Debbie has the handwheel assembly reserved and is currently making changes. He can reserve the top-level assembly without affecting Debbie's work on the subassembly. This modular approach to access control allows users to design concurrently without accidentally saving over each other's progress. A short time later, Eric sees that Debbie has finished up. He just needs to reload the latest version of the subassembly from the server. Taking a look at the handwheel drawing, he likes her redesign and moves it to the released state. Back in the assembly, Eric attaches the connecting rod mechanism, then returns to his bookmarks to update the drawing. Bumping the assembly and drawing to Rev B, he is ready to save. Revised hatch assembly requires new versions of supporting documents. From this convenience of the Bookmarks tab, Eric uploads the latest version of the Composer file and uses the interactive preview to inspect the latest revisions. Out of the box, Cloud Data Management enabled the Nemo team to be productive right away. They were able to safely store their data, manage changes, and design concurrently without ever leaving the familiarity of the SolidWorks design environment. Everyone in the organization benefits when you stay connected with SolidWorks and the 3D Experience platform. All right, and that takes us to our recap of all of the amazing features that we have seen along this presentation. And just as a reminder, here are some of those features that we saw in the previous presentation. All right, and with that, folks, it's a wrap of our SolidWorks 2022 What's New material. Hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we look forward to working with you in the coming year.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us this morning. It's this time of the presentation where we wrap things up, answer a few questions, and have a last chance to give you a few last messages. Let me introduce ourselves. To my right here is Mohamed Lakahal. He's our Chief Sales Officer.
Yeah.
My name is François, JF Niazon. I'm the COO as well. And on behalf of Alex Habrich, who welcomed you this morning, he would love to be with us for this last portion. Actually, he's in Lisbon, Portugal this morning, attending meetings with Dassault Systems to make sure we have all this great stuff to bring to you for the coming year and so on. Couple of things. So I hope you enjoyed the last two and a half hours. We try to put together an interesting and compelling program for you to highlight all the new functions and functionalities of SolidWorks, the software we all love and have been supporting and working with you for so many years. So we have a few questions. At the end, we'll also announce the winner of the Amazon gift card. Our first question came a little bit earlier, and the question went as such. We're talking more and more about a 3D experience platform, as you know, and you've heard and seen some parts of it. And the question is, knowing all this now, what you're a new customer or you're an existing customer, what are the main differences? What should make you want to change if you're on the other one or not? Or when should you? If you're a new customer, which is the best solution for you? What are the pluses and minuses? And we thought we'd tackle that. It's a pretty significant topic. So we thought we'd tackle that to start. Do you want to take it first,
Yeah, please. So hi, everyone. It's a good question, actually. And a lot of people are in this mindset saying, okay, what is the difference? Why I'm going to the platform instead of having my traditional software? So it has been, a lot of progress, or a lot of progress during these 40 years in the software industry. We started with the dongles in the beginning in all the software. Now we are, to ask ourselves, okay, how we can we are actually in the era of the collaboration. So mainly how we can collaborate, efficiency with our colleague, because the world is changing. So everybody is working from a specific location, so not necessarily in the same office. So we cannot share, directly or personally or face to face with colleagues. So this is why this is what 3D experience is, giving in as a big, let's say, main advantage. Let's say so mainly. The question is, am I going to 3D expand the platform, or buying just a traditional software? So I think there is a lot of advantage to go to the platform. So you have first of all, I'll talk about the collaboration. It's very easy, intuitive, easy to use collaboration between colleagues with that. Share files, shares idea, chat, everything is in the platform. And the second thing is mainly, I think, the access to the tools when you actually need them. So yeah, we're gonna probably talk about simulation.
Yeah,
And,
but we have a follow-up question on that.
Exactly. So for example, if you have for a specific period of time need a specific software or specific apps, you can with the platform is the let's say the way to do it. It's very quickly you have these apps and very quickly to use it. So and of course there is other let's say advantage in this platform. For example, you for the IT side, so everything is on your hand. You can access whatever you have as a PC, as a tool. You can go with an iPad, with a PC, whatever you want, and do your stuff in the platform, which is not the case in the traditional software, which is so mainly is the difference in the collaboration and the access to the tools.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I agree. It's also it's more than just a tool. It's a place to go to work.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody goes to the same place.
Yeah.
You've got common areas. You've got sharing built in.
information coming in.
Exactly. So yeah, processes, all that. So
Exactly.
it's not just a tool. It's now a
Exactly.
place to go to work.
Yeah.
But you can go from anywhere. right?
Exactly. It's actually like your office, but you have everything, on the finger.
That's right. So you were right. We had a follow-up question on this, which was, now what's the advantage of doing simulation on the cloud? And I think that's a very good question. Now, my background is in finite element analysis, so this hits home for me. And there's really a couple of different parts to that answer, but if any of you have done analysis, I'm sure some of you have, it's very computer intensive. And so we have great software tools. We have SolidWorks Simulation. We've had for a long time a very powerful tool, but it's very dependent on your machine.
Exactly.
So productivity, time to solve your computation, your problems is very machine dependent. That's one thing. Plus, there is a limit, right? Every software has a limit, and in their bigger portfolio, Dassault has Abacus, which is the most powerful solver in the world for finite element analysis. And the advantage with the platform and SolidWorks, even your desktop platform, SolidWorks, if you want, you don't necessarily have to move. You can have your desktop SolidWorks and just buy the connector to connect to the platform. But the advantage you have is you now get access to Abacus. And on top of it, so that's the first part of the answer, you can get access to this really advanced server. The good part to that is that often the cost is prohibitive to acquire a full license of Abacus.
Absolutely.
We're talking very, very expensive software, even though it's tremendously versatile. Through the platform, you can have access to it at a fraction of the cost. But more than that, you also have the ability, as you prepare your problem in SolidWorks Simulation and you send it over to the cloud, you have the ability to either use the solver and do it still on your machine locally. You can do that.
Yeah.
Or you can have the cloud, you can buy tokens, and you can have a whole farm of computers on the cloud performing your analysis calculations. And so you can get your results way, way, way faster.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to commit to a huge initial investment to be able to do that. So I think the biggest advantage of the cloud for simulation is that the upfront cost is much, much lower, but you still have access to the full power of Abacus and of the platform and a computer farm. So I think it's pretty amazing. So another question we had, but it's also a point we wanted to talk about, which I think is pretty key. We've talked all morning about software, software tools, software solutions, even hardware in some cases. We've also talked a bit about a 3D printer. Maybe we should touch a little bit on that later on for those who are interested. But we haven't touched on services. And as of our, we understand that the relationship, and when we mean solution, when we talk about providing solution to our customers, there's always the services portion, which is key to the success of a lot of those endeavors on our client side. And I think it'd be a good thing to just maybe remind some of our viewers of the portfolio of services that we have available to them to accompany them from the very, very onset all the way to the users and the companies who've been customers with us for over 20 years now. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So, well, yeah, it's a good point. It's a good question, actually. Where regarding services, we have all these services portfolio to assist and to help, our customer in the traditional software, and we have now, a bunch of services to, help the client, use the platform or the tool we are talking about, the 3D experience. So, in both of them, we have, let's say, different type of services. Of course, we have the training, the online training. We have you can set up online training, custom training in the customer facilities, or even online. Very specific one. Maybe you know something about SolidWorks, but not all the thing. So we can personalize your specific needs and target specific lessons in our portfolio of trainings. We can as well help you to implement the solution internally in terms of process, or even in terms of just installation. I mean, we help customer. We have services like No Worries Days, so that set up all the let's say the files and all the drawings in the customer sites, just to help this a little push in the ramp up, let's say, in a little ramp up in the beginning.
Sure.
So to be very productive very quickly. So and the 3D experience side is the same thing. We have an onboarding services and a training around that, of course, how to better use the best practices, and we for the let's say not all the client, but let's say for the client that use SolidWorks for many years, we have some in certain point you need to you used to do something in SolidWorks in a certain way, but it's not really the best one. Today we are seeing a lot of new features on SolidWorks and 3D experience, but the way you use it since years, you will continue to use it. So this is when we where we can help the customer for optimization. For example, we have a service for that. So an expert from our tech team can do let's say an audit and how you are using SolidWorks, and maybe help you to point it out some best practices.
Because we hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
We hear a lot of customers, because we've been in business for so many years.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of customers saying, well, you know what, we get the new versions, we get the speed increase,
Yeah.
it's great, we get the new but it's hard to find time in the year, especially if you have more than one or two users sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to find time to actually look at it and bring into your
Exactly.
daily work
Yeah.
all these new things. And sometimes 2-3 versions down the road, we were talking about this a bit earlier, saying sometimes it happens, we talk to a customer and says, hey, how do you like this new way of doing this feature? And the customer said, oh, we have this feature?
Yeah, exactly.
So actually we're going back a couple
Yeah.
of versions. So we have that. We can help in that way too.
Absolutely. So it's like an audit and say, okay, you may maybe use this kind of feature. Maybe you will save a lot of time and or some specific functions. I mean, and we offer a report after that, so the client have
So
a
you
plan.
get a plan, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
have a plan to implement this change.
So see, it's not only about software.
No.
It's about accompanying you from beginning to end.
No.
We one of our last questions also we had was about 3D printing.
Yeah.
More and more of our customers are actually, you would be surprised how many of our customers are actually customers for software solutions as well as 3D printing, because it's really part of the same process before after. Maybe we can talk very briefly about some of the solutions that we have, which some of them may vary a bit by geography.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, we can name, in terms of 3D printing, Markforged. Markforged is a very valuable partner of ours. We've been doing business with them for a long time. They're very and I think what's key here maybe for people is just to take 1 minute and say, all right, well, in the case of Markforged, we're talking about parts that are strong. Very nice finish.
Very nice finish.
They probably one of the very, very few, and especially the first technology to come out with the ability to reinforce with fiber.
Yeah.
So we're talking nylon, we're talking Kevlar, we're talking carbon fiber. So extremely strong parts, stronger than aluminum.
and not only printing on the fiber only. No, we can actually reinforce some specific, area in the part.
Right,
itself.
right. For instance, you want to put a hole or fastener.
Exactly.
You can print with some reinforcement fibers right there. So that's one thing, and that's so Markforged is one of our core products. And what we've done over the last few years is add a few other partners. So we have a varied offering, if you want. A complementary, that's the correct term, thank you. So we added Formlabs.
Yeah.
Right? And Formlabs with a huge variety of resins allows you to get into all of the prototyping side and the different material properties, the rubber, or all those kind of great things. So we have Formlabs. We added as well in the last year a couple of again complementary offers. So we went really large with Builder 3D.
Yeah.
So
it's the word.
it's very, very large parts.
Very large
right?
parts.
So it's something we were missing, I think, in our inventory, in our offer to our customer. And lastly, not too long ago, we added a new partner, Race 3D.
Race 3D, yeah.
You want to talk a second about Race 3D?
Well, Race 3D is, let's say, the printer for prototyping. I mean, the target is prototyping, and we can print in PLA. In PLA plastics. I mean,
a whole bunch of materials.
Exactly, very nice and reliable printer, and I think they are launching, some additional support. You can actually have an OEM support on these printers, so you can print with whatever the support is.
I think it's a little bit more of an entry level for us.
It's an
I'm
entry
not talking entry level like what you see on Amazon. I don't want to diss Amazon, but that's not what we're talking about.
Professional desktop, exactly.
Right.
Professional desktop printer. They are an entry level.
So we cover pretty much a wide array, I think, of applications.
And maybe we need to mention for Markforged the metal printer.
Yes.
So Markforged has a metal printer. They have an offer on that, and we can print in stainless steel. We can even print in copper, which is
true. And I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in our program, but Markforged is also coming out with the FX20.
Absolutely.
Which is a game changer in terms of size, but also in terms of some materials.
And speed.
Yes, correct. And materials like they now will have Ultem. Which is something, a product which is certified for aviation purposes also.
For aviation purposes, exactly.
So it's very exciting time. Absolutely. And I would, I almost forgot to mention our scanner line.
Exactly.
We added Artec, so we were now an Artec partner as well, Artec scanners. And the reason we picked Artec is that they have, in our opinion, the widest range, right, of a portfolio, starting with the I believe the Spider, I believe is the smallest one for a smaller object, high definition, all the way to the Eva, and then the Leo, and then you have the online. You can even have the online scanners for assembly lines, and we have the big ones for rooms and for lasers, boats and cars. I mean, anything you want to scan, they have a scanner right for it. So
scanner and software as well. So
absolutely, they have their own software as well. On top of Geomagic, they have their own software, Artec Studio. So I think we really covered everything with that offer, and we're really excited about the future.
Yeah.
A couple of last things. So first, we'd like to congratulate our winner.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So we have a winner for our Amazon gift card, and I swear I'm gonna do it justice. So I would like to congratulate Yogatama Vishnu Pandu Prayuda. I hope I got this wrong. Right. I hope I got this right. I very much want to get this right. So congratulations. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah.
With that, what is there left to say? Maybe.
Next year.
Next year how do you say it in? Not only online, I hope. We have a habit of doing this in movie theaters and stuff like that. And I hope we get back to that.
Absolutely.
It's been great to have you guys stick with us. We appreciate it a lot through this second challenging year, but much better, and things are looking really great for next year. Yeah. We can't wait to see you again in person next year. We want to thank you very much for your time once again.
Yeah.
And even though maybe first time I say this in 2021, but maybe happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, next
Black
week,
Friday next year. Next week.
Next week, yeah.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
On behalf of SolidXperts, have a great end of the year, and we'll see you next year.
Next year.